Welcome to Long Live Alternative Party's podcast. Today, friends, we have another exciting guest on our podcast. He's from a party that we often interview on our podcast, a party full of energy, the Libertarian Party. We have an individual at the Libertarian Party of Texas in the Dallas area. His name is Kevin Hale, and he's running for office, and I'm going to let him tell you what office he's running for. So welcome to the podcast, Kevin.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Andrew, for having me on. My name is Kevin Hale. I am running for Congress, U.S. House, Congressional District 32. This is the third time I've ran, and I'm looking forward to making a difference for our constituents.
Perfect. Kevin, at the start of the show, I mentioned that the district is in the Dallas area. So can you give us more specifics about the demographics of that? What part of Dallas does it include? What does it not include? A lot of our districts are gerrymandered, so I imagine this district as well.
Oh, yes. This one's no different. In fact, let me go ahead and pull up the map real quick, and I can, because I have it on my website where you can zoom in on it, and I can do that real quick. Mostly it includes everything East Dallas, from 75 all the way over to Shiloh, typically. That includes the White Rock Lake area, the Lake Highlands area, the Lockwood area, Highland Village, all the way through Richardson. We got almost all of Richardson is in our district. And then we have a piece of Plano. On the west side of Plano, we have some constituents over there. And then we jet across Addison, and then we have a small piece of Denton, Carrollton-Denton constituency as well. I like to look at the map and say it's the max headroom of the gerrymandering because the neck goes from the East Dallas, south of the White Rock Lake area. It goes the neck goes through the part of Mesquite and far East Dallas and into Box Springs. Almost the entire Box Springs area is in my district. So it's, like I said, it's the max headroom of gerrymandering in the Dallas County. Dallas, Collin, and a small piece of Denton County, but a very small piece. But that's the way it goes. That's how gerrymandering works. This district is gerrymandered to favor the Democrats. It meets a lot of those requirements of the 14th Amendment where low income, people of color, especially in that Box Springs, Mesquite, South Dallas area, there's a lot of that. But there's a good mix. I mean, it's through that Lake Highlands and Richardson and Plano area, you have a lot of Anglo and Mexicans and Asians. So it's a good mix. But it does heavily favor the Democrats, and that's I got gerrymandered into this district after my first two runs. So I kind of wanted to run it. I wanted to run in this district because I live in it. That's why I switched. Previously I ran a Congressional District 5, which is where I was gerrymandered, and then after 2020 election they gerrymandered me into 32. So that's kind of what happened there. And I also forced the hand of the incumbent in 5 to co-sponsor the bill I ran on, which means I've already won my project there.
What bill was that?
Was accomplished. Yeah, that's kind of what I do. I run campaigns that I focus on like 3 or 4 main issues, and I just don't stop talking about them. When I started running in 2020, I started talking about the Federal Sunset Act, and what it will do, just so if anybody doesn't know. The Federal Sunset Act will create a commission whose sole purpose is to audit Six Sigma and, if necessary, sunset close any one of the 601 federal agencies or departments that isn't constitutionally created. So it's a great way to cut government head on. Our government is way too big. When I tell people there's 601 federal agencies and departments, I don't think they really grasp that, which is why I put a link on my website so that they can go look at that list. It's in alphabetical order, but it does take a while to get through, as you might imagine. There's a lot of redundancy.
So what's something especially frivolous office that we have?
We have an AmeriCorps, and then we have an AmeriCorps Seniors.
Oh,
see, that's
okay.
the kind of redundancy that I want to get rid of. I don't mind having an AmeriCorps. In fact, I would almost wish it was a 501c3, a voluntary thing. But if government's going to back something like AmeriCorps, why do we have to have two layers for AmeriCorps Seniors? You know what I mean?
Good point.
It seems like they can. It seems like they can still complete their mission without having a separate division, or what I should say is a separate line item on the budget for the seniors. I think that's ridiculous. So there's a lot of that in that list. So that's just one example. Just real quick, there's one example that you can find on the first page of the list. AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps Seniors. I mean, to me, that's just the redundancy that government creates in hopes that it will help us in some short fashion.
So you think consolidation of a lot of offices will be a big part of the strategy?
Yes, it's a big victory if we get this passed. And I've been successful when I started talking about the bill in 2020. Not only did I put pressure on the incumbent I was running against, but apparently the word got out, and there's now 15 co-sponsors on this bill.
Oh, good.
The sponsor is now from Texas, and 6 or 7 of the co-sponsors are from Texas. And I think that has a lot to do with me trolling the Tea Parties and trolling the Democrats and trolling everybody about, hey, here's a good way to cut government. You think government's too big? Here's a good way to do it. So I've been very successful at staying on just that particular bill and getting co-sponsors. Now, I have a couple other bills that I'm pushing this time around. The number one reason I ran in the first place is I want to end the AUMF, which is the authorized use of military force. That's my number one priority. I've had more success on the Federal Sunset Act, so I'd like to lead with that. But my second, the number one thing I even got into politics for was to end the endless wars, and make Congress do its job and have a debate on whether or not to have a declaration of war before we give command of the troops to the president. Under the AUMF that we've had in place since 2001, Congress doesn't even have to do that. They don't even have to do their duty. The president can just go to war and without a declaration.
Okay.
That's not what the Constitution asked us to do.
So that was after 9/11, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And that's why we've had not a single day without us dropping a bomb on somebody.
Oh no.
Since then. Yep.
So some people. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
We unleashed the war machine. We literally did, and they get to pick and choose where their battles are. The Biden just a couple of days ago said that we were not at war anyway. The night before we bombed Yemen. Like literally the night before he says that, we're bombing Yemen. I mean, that's the cognitive dissonance that's taking place about our wars. And I want to stop the wars, or at least have a debate about it, and have a declaration of war from Congress before we give the commander-in-chief our troops.
Okay. So this one you say is a harder sell than the other one, right?
Yeah, much harder sell. Democrats and Republicans are okay going to war, apparently. Because neither of them have stopped. Let me give you an example. The last president not to drop a bomb on somebody was Jimmy Carter.
Oh my.
Think about that. That's a long time ago.
Yes.
That we haven't had one of our presidents drop a bomb on somebody. So
yes,
it's the war machine has taken over D.C. and the only way to stop it is to force a debate in Congress. And the only way you can do that is to repeal the AUMF, because as long as the AUMF is in place, all of the presidents will take advantage of that.
Oh, okay.
As they've proven to do over the last 2 decades.
So do you think it's crony capitalism that drives the MS war machine? You think that's the driving factor?
I wouldn't blame capitalism, I would blame cronyism, and I would blame the military-industrial complex.
Okay.
They seek profits through death, and we're not doing us any favors. We've been policing the world for, 50, 60 years now. It's no more peaceful than it was before we got involved. So why are we, the taxpayers, funding it to the tune of $34 trillion of debt, in which to pay our bills we print money out of thin air, causing inflation?
Sure.
So it's a cycle that we've been doing for a long time, and basically since 1913. If there's a nice war to be had, we'll have it, because we can print money through the Federal Reserve and pay for it and prop up, industry that maybe we shouldn't prop up.
Oh, wow. So did you say there was a third bill you have too?
Yes. I have 4 bills that I'm talking
Four
about.
bills, okay.
Obviously, repeal the AUMF is number 1. Number 2 is the Federal Sunset Act, which we just talked about. The third thing I'm talking about is a Taxpayers' Choice Act, in which you, the individual, can direct all of your tax dollars or any portion of your tax dollars to any one of the 601 federal agencies or departments. You decide where your tax dollars go.
Oh, okay.
So that's the other thing I'm trying to do. This is like a pincer movement on cutting government, right? The first thing I'm trying to do is bring it on head on with the Federal Sunset Act. Just shut down some of these agencies directly. The second thing I want to do is give taxpayers the choice of which federal agencies they want to support. And by doing that, I expose the ones they do not support.
Okay.
And then the fourth thing that I'm talking about, which I just introduced less than a month ago, is the new Sunlight Act. If you committed a crime in this country, misdemeanor or felony, 5 years after serving your sentence, that will fall off. It will be deleted, and you will no longer be a felony or have a misdemeanor show up on your record.
Okay.
I want to give people an opportunity to get their life straight instead of falling back into the cycle of, well, I can't get a job, so I might as well go rob somebody, or, it's the recidivism problem is all because of these felons don't have a light at the end of the tunnel, and we don't focus on rehabilitation, and we just continue to punish them, even though it may have been a mistake that they made when they were young, and they're not the same person.
Oh, sure. That makes sense.
So, yeah, and this will give people a second chance. Now, obviously, if somebody blows it on their second, third chance, maybe that violent person needs to just stay in jail. But
sure.
for those that just make minor mistakes when they're young or get into a situation that they didn't handle correctly, let's give those people a second chance.
Oh, sure.
And that's what the Sunlight bill would do.
Okay. Okay, that sounds like a good bill.
So that's basically what I run on. I'm trying to make those issues front and center in my campaign, so that the two old parties have to address them. Okay. And the best way they can address them is adopt them or try to debate me on them. And I'm pretty sure I can win the debate in the public eye.
Okay, so we talked about the real reasons that they would oppose this. What would be their purported reasons that they oppose things like this? What would they say?
Well, they would be afraid that, like, for instance, the Democrats would be afraid that funding would, if, for instance, we got the Taxpayers' Choice Act instead of the Federal Sunset Act, okay? They would be afraid that Planned Parenthood would see a drop in funding, and Republicans obviously would not put their dollars towards Planned Parenthood. But what happened in 2016, when President Trump was first elected, shows me that the American people would voluntarily elect to support Planned Parenthood, because they did that in droves, which to me makes the argument that maybe Planned Parenthood should be a 501c3 and not a government program.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Yes.
There's a couple of ways. There's a lot of what government does that I think should be 501c3s, and the only way to expose that option for them is to show that the American people would support them outside of government support.
Okay.
And the Taxpayer Choice Act would allow that to demonstrate that in real time, in fact.
Okay. And I know that you view it as a separate issue as the pro-life, pro-choice issue, though some people want to conflate the two, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, that's pretty much been turned into a state issue now. And I'm running for federal office, but I would support a Medical Freedom Act in which would supersede the prohibition to medical treatment.
Okay.
Yeah, the best way to say that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so that'd be
because
a workaround.
That's literally what's happening in the red states is that they're doing a prohibition on a medical procedure.
Okay.
That's literally what's happening. So if you want to, on a federal level, stop that, what you have to do is make it a medical freedom issue and not an abortion issue.
Huh. Interesting.
That's the way I would attack it. I mean, number one, why is government making decisions about my body anyway? And especially, why is the government making a decision about a woman's body who's going to be most affected by this and who may not be in a position to care for a child? Now, I would like to see less abortions, and we need to talk about how we can make adoption less expensive. We can make contraceptive over the counter so that people have access to ways to prevent pregnancy. Those are things that would actually work to prevent more abortions. Right now, people don't see those as options, but I don't think another thing here's another one. We're pretty close technology-wise to having artificial wombs. So the Republican Party needs to be open to that idea that if a woman gets pregnant and doesn't want to keep it, that she has the option to put it into an artificial womb and then let that child be adopted out by the state or by a private agency. There's a lot of solutions to this problem that don't include having to kill someone's offspring.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's an interesting place that it's in. The government is still funding Planned Parenthood, yet in many states it's been banned. Abortion has been banned.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And there's a lot of things that Planned Parenthood does outside of that one medical procedure that benefit women greatly. And after 2016, it became clear to me after President Trump won and the left feared that Planned Parenthood would be on the chopping block, they began voluntarily supporting it at 300 times, almost 400 times what they were getting from the government. So to me, that tells me that Planned Parenthood should be a 501c3 and a 501c4 so that they can operate on both the educational and on the actual in action.
Political, right?
Yes. So that would be the future. I'd hope I can demonstrate using the Taxpayer Choice Act to show that, hey, some of what we do could be supported by people on the private market, and we shouldn't fund it. Especially the controversial stuff. That's what's dividing our country is the funding on the controversial stuff. And if you can take that flame out of the fire, then you have less of a fire.
Yes, good point, because that makes it worse because it's one thing to have a law against something, but it's another thing to force someone's taxpayers' dollars to fund something they don't want.
Exactly. That's where the fervor comes from, is that they're funding something they hate.
Yeah.
So the Taxpayer Choice Act would, in fact, diffuse that fire because the people on the right would choose not to fund those type of things, and the people on the left would choose to fund those type of things. And the Libertarians would choose to fund none of it. But I digress. I think if people would really take a real hard look at Argentina and see the progress that Milei has made in just that 7 or 8 months that he's been president, I think that that's a very smart thing for us to point at and say, there's our proof of concept. He he stopped inflation on food in 6 months. Like, they were experiencing 100+% inflation on everything, right?
Yeah.
There's no inflation on food now. He got them in 9 weeks, provided them a surplus on their government spending because he cut so many of the government agencies. And it's been just up news ever since. And it's just like, there's your proof of concept that we're right about these things. There's your first Libertarian president doing exactly what Libertarian presidents would do, cutting government, allowing the free market to work, and all of a sudden there's no inflation on food and very little inflation on other goods. It's amazing what's happening in Argentina. And I just keep pointing people in that direction saying, here's my proof of concept in real time, right now, happening right now. So the things that I'm proposing are exactly the things that he's done.
Oh, great.
I mean, exactly. I mean, I've been doing it for, almost 5 years, 6 years now that I've been talking about the Federal Sunset Act. And that's exactly what it would do. It would cut government spending. And here's the thing that the side effect of actually passing the bill would that you would see government agencies decide for themselves how to cut spending in their own agency instead of always trying to get a higher budget item.
Oh,
because the writing would be on the wall, right? That you better spend your money wisely and provide a real service for the American people, or the Federal Sunset Commission is going to come review your stuff and figure out that you're not a value add, and they're going to cut your department. So what I think what you'll see is departments that can move to 501c3s will. Those that are dependent on the government will be reviewed and slashed or actually closed. Slashed drastically, like 70% of their people let go, or they're not doing, the job that they were supposed to be doing, or the redundancy of it all. That all gets eliminated with that Sunset Act. So that's what we're trying to do, is make government smaller so that people can keep more of their dollars in their pocket and decide for themselves what is appropriate to spend it on.
Yes.
One of the things that people use that word capitalism. In America, we haven't experienced capitalism in over 100 years.
Oh, wow.
Okay? When the government started subsidizing industries, that's when we stopped being a capitalist country. And that happened around, okay? So that's when government started picking the winners and losers in the marketplace, like they do with the Green New Deal, and they do with when they subsidize the coal and the oil and gas industries. What if those industries were not subsidized? What would the prices really look like? And I think that would be more of a motivator to get people to look at alternatives like hemp.
Oh, sure.
Did you know you can make batteries out of hemp that are 8 times more powerful than lithium?
Wow, I didn't realize. I knew hemp was a very powerful thing. I didn't realize it could do batteries too. Wow.
Yes. It's one of the things. It's kind of like, what can hemp do? It's almost like the easier question to answer is, what can hemp not do? Because it literally would change all of the industries. Textiles, think about it, clothing, everything that's cloth can be hemp. Paper, everything that's paper can be hemp. If 1 acre of hemp will give you in one season enough pulp for 4 acres of trees.
Oh, wow.
So why are we cutting down trees when we can be growing hemp?
Yes.
You can make plastic out of it. You can make fuel and biodiesel out of it. Ford actually built an entire car out of hemp, including the panels. The entire thing was made out of hemp.
Wow.
And ran on hemp oil. So in 2019, they passed the hemp bill, which made it possible for farmers to start growing hemp. The reason this hasn't taken off is because there's not enough hemp places where they can take the hemp out to get it processed, hemp processors.
Okay.
So that's why it hasn't taken off as quickly as it could in America. But I think if we stop subsidizing oil and gas and the Green New Deal and people started making that decision for themselves, I think that hemp would come rising very fast to the top of the crop as far as being able to meet the needs of our energy needs, our need to be environmentally friendly. Hemp is a very good medium for that, and that's another thing I've been pushing a lot for too. Not legislatively, just hey, look at this alternative that's coming up. You know, I mean we're 70 years behind because we outlawed it way back when.
Okay. That sounds good. Yeah, hemp is a great thing. So the more we can use of it, the better.
Yep. And that's one of the things I think we could grow the economy with is the hemp economy because it's so diverse. I mean, there's like 50,000 different products we can make with it.
Oh yeah, good point.
It's ridiculous, and it would replace a lot of what cotton uses twice as much water and uses pesticides in order for us to grow it. Hemp uses half the water and doesn't need a pesticide. So we can actually fix our lands as well without poisoning ourselves.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good way to do things.
It's the only plant that can feed you, house you, clothe you, and heal you.
Wow. Good way to put it.
So yeah, that's the other thing I kind of talk about on the side. I don't have any legislation for it because hemp is already legal. All I'm trying to do is let the economy know, let consumers know that this is an option now, and by their demand, we can get that going a lot faster.
Sure. Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah. I don't want to subsidize it. That's not
Yeah, that'd
capitalism.
be. Yeah, there you go.
Which is why if we stop subsidizing all the other things that it competes with, you'll see that hemp will come rising to the top real quick.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I mean, we literally pay farmers not to grow crops. We need to stop doing that.
So why do you think they do that to pay farmers not to grow crops?
That may come down to it's really baffling to me that they would do that. I mean, because by providing more food, we lower the prices for everybody, and it may be a price control thing, or it's one of the frustrating things that government does that I don't understand is like, why are we paying people not to grow stuff? I want people to be productive and grow stuff, and by them not doing that, we're literally paying them to be on the dole. To take taxpayer dollars and create nothing. Please.
Yeah.
No, that's not how this works. That's not capitalism. You need to provide a service or a product to the marketplace so that you provide value. I mean, if you're not providing value and somebody's paying you not to provide value, what's the incentive?
Good point, yeah. So would you call our system right now cronyism? Would that be the best way to describe it if it's not capitalism?
Cronyism, yeah, because it's not capitalism. This isn't capitalism. It hasn't been capitalism in a long time. So
Okay.
I try to make that point to people when they're complaining about capitalism, like what you're experiencing is not capitalism. If government picks the winners and losers through subsidies or bailouts, even like the bank bailouts, we should have let the banks fail. We should have sold off their assets and tried to make the people flush. But no, we bail them out at everybody's expense with the printed money and the inflation. So it's like, that's not capitalism. Capitalism lets those that make bad decisions fail. Because they're poorly using the resources that they've been allocated.
So I imagine you also think by ending this type of subsidies, the housing prices would go down too.
Oh, absolutely. We can get out of the way with a lot of the licensing laws and code enforcement. I mean, if somebody builds you a crappy house, then sue them. You can take them for all their money that they got off of your house. But,
yeah,
you know, people have an incentive to do the right thing if they know they can get blasted or sued. You know, a lot of the environmental stuff like the EPA is they've got these tort reforms, and we can't sue these companies out of business if they do bad by us because they got the tort reforms that prevent them from being totally bankrupted by a citizen jury. It's the same thing on the smaller scale with a house builder. If he doesn't build you a good house and it falls apart in 4 or 5 years, then you better, you know, sue him and get your money back and get the repairs done or whatever it is that you need to get done. But not holding people accountable is the problem. And that's the problem I see right now, is that people aren't being held responsible for their actions when they harm others.
Okay, that's a good way to put it. Some would say that is, with rights comes responsibilities.
Correct. And I think that's the part that people miss about libertarianism, is that we want you to have all your rights, all of them. But remember, having all your rights means that you have to have all the responsibility and take on all of the consequences of using those rights. For instance, if you're a bigot and you talk bad about other people because they're different, and other people start shunning you and stop doing business with you, well, that's because of your actions of using your freedom of speech. There are consequences, and you have to be responsible for the consequences as well. So, you know, be careful, you know, what you say and how you treat people, because eventually karma will catch up with you. So, you know, the responsibility part is the part that a lot of people don't see with libertarianism, because all they see is us wanting all of our freedoms all the time. And we will take all of our freedoms all the time, and we'll take on that responsibility as well.
That's good, both sides of the coin.
Yes, you have to, if you only take on, this is the problem with the subsidy, right? Is that you took on no responsibility, but you still got rewarded for producing nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they've made you dependent on that government subsidy now not to do anything. What happens when that subsidy ends and you suddenly have to go farming again? Are you going to even remember how? Does your equipment even keep up anymore? Did you maintain it all while you were down for a couple years? You know, is the ground ready for you to put a crop in it? You know, there's, you know, a lot of what farmers do isn't the crop, it's the dirt, right? Their product is the dirt, because that's what produces, is the dirt, not necessarily the crop. So have they maintained their dirt enough to bring on a crop and will it yield enough to give them a profit? It's hard to say if you've been down for a couple of years and the land's been out there doing nothing, not being worked, or, you know, in some shape or form or fashion.
You could take care of that with community.
Yeah, that's a good way to do things. So, Kevin, how can our audience support you in your campaign?
The best way they can support me is the free way to do it is to get on my Facebook page, Give Congress Hale 2024. Any of the search bars will pull it up. Or on my X, which is at Hale Give. Those are the free ways to help me. If you want to help me financially, which I really do need right now, I need $2,400 to buy street signage. All of my street signage is issue focused because my name recognition is good in this district, because this is the third time I ran. So I've put the focus on my street signs to be on the issues that we just talked about. So That's they're big 4-foot by 4-foot signs. I'm trying to raise $4,000. I'm $2,400 short right now. And the website is givecongresshale.com. And that's Hale, my last name, Hale.
Like Nathan Hale, the teacher?
Correct. Exactly.
Awesome.
Yep. Those are the ways you can do it. I really need your support right now. I have to place that order for the signs next week. So.
Okay, so it's urgent.
The first week of August, yeah. So the first week of August, I have to place that order for signs because the first week of September is the first week I can put them out. So I have to give the producer some time to produce.
Sure.
Yeah.
Kevin, we thank you for coming on the podcast and talking about your campaign. We appreciate hearing what you have to say.
Thank you very much for reaching out and allowing me this opportunity to get the media. I appreciate it.
Sure thing. We wish you best in your campaign and also everything else you do in your personal and professional life.
Thank you, sir. You have a great day, Andrew.
Bye now.
Bye now.